The politics of COVID has divided families around the world. And I'm sure there are going to be many gatherings for those who are gathering over Thanksgiving where this becomes a very lively topic of conversation. There are still many people out there who don't believe the facts or aren't getting the right facts. So what is the data telling you about just how bad this pandemic is?
When we look at the data, first of all, we know that 8 in 10 Americans believe misinformation is a huge problem. So it's not necessarily a surprise that people don't trust the information that we're getting. And that's why USAFacts really serves to be a nonpartisan source for just the data as reported by the government. And we know it's not always easy to get, and that's why USAFacts goes directly to 3,000 counties across the country to get the data, to see what is happening with the spread of COVID. And what we know, unfortunately, is that while it's not equal across the country, cases are on the rise again, as people know. When you look at September versus October cases, they were generally on the rise across the country, but there were 5 states that were able to buck that trend. So we think it's really important that Americans can go and look at, for my county, where I live, what's happening with cases and make decisions about their own safety. We know that as of November 7th, 100,000 plus cases were being reported across the country every day. This week, unfortunately, that rose to 150,000 new cases being reported daily. So we're watching those numbers closely. While we see skyrocketing cases, the death rate is stabilizing, but it's still, we're losing 1,000 lives a day to COVID, 250,000 so far this year. So certainly something that we want people to continue to track the data on and really think about their health and safety.
Right, and we now know there are 200,000 new cases of COVID-19 a day in the United States alone. Talk to us about the misinformation and disinformation problem. You know, Facebook says it has flagged, more than 100 million posts, but is that enough?
That's a great question. We go to Americans every year with our State of the Facts poll to say, are you able to access trusted information? And we found that social media in particular saw a drop off of over 30% of people who said, I used to go to social media as a source for daily information. I'm not anymore. And only about 11% of people say they trust that as a platform. So I think those platforms have a challenge when it comes to their audience feeling like it's a trusted place where they can get the facts. That's why at USAFacts.org, we're not for profit. We're nonpartisan, and it's really just about making the people's data, government data, and making that data accessible to Americans so that they have trusted data in which they can make decisions and hopefully advocate for positive outcomes in the country.
You're also looking at some other trends, air travel, retail sales, all of this certainly very interesting as we head into Thanksgiving and Black Friday. The CDC has recommended that people not travel. Maybe that means more people will be at home buying things online. But talk to us about how COVID is impacting all of these other behaviors, and making for a totally unprecedented holiday season.
Absolutely. We know that it's not just about the healthcare impact of COVID, but there's a whole halo of issues that are being impacted around not only our economy, but personal spending, personal income, and things like air travel, how we live our lives. So at USAFacts.org, we have a COVID Impact and Recovery Hub where you can go daily, look on your mobile device and understand what are the other impacts of COVID. What does that mean for things like food scarcity, where we still have 11% of Americans who don't have access to a stable source of food. When we look at personal income, it's actually up 4.4% from where we were in January before COVID. While that may not make sense, as we've looked at some of the stimulus efforts that have gone out from the government, that's what's causing that income to go up. And we're starting to see retail sales rebound from where they were in January. But government spending obviously has had a big uptick, and the revenues to support that uptick in spending are certainly going to have an impact as we look at the debt and the deficit as we move forward.
Now, you also have your annual Thanksgiving Fact Feast, looking at what will be the most prominent topics of conversation around the dinner table. I'm sure we have some ideas, but what do you think people are going to be talking about this Thanksgiving, whether they're meeting in person or doing it on Zoom or just talking over the phone?
Yes, we know that Thanksgiving is full of lively conversation and debate. And given the misinformation, there's probably some information that will be brought to the table that may not necessarily be based on truth. So we hope that people will feast on facts at their Thanksgiving table. And our Thanksgiving fact sheet has some of the new topics that have certainly will be hitting the Thanksgiving table this year, including COVID-19 and certainly racial inequality in America. But some of the tried and true topics like immigration, jobs and economy, healthcare. It's all in a very easy to access place at USAFacts.org, where we have fact cards that you can quickly flip and hopefully in a polite and helpful way challenge that person across the table to start the debate at the Thanksgiving table based on facts.